What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Leave It to the Judges MMA show. I'm here with the boys, Clark and Xavier, as always. Today, we're going to discuss UFC 306, our post-show thoughts, reactions, crazy night of fights. A bunch of weird stuff happened. The Sphere, his first time in the Sphere. Yeah, got some thumbs down from the boys. Before we get into the fights really quickly, it's been talked about a lot, but what were your thoughts on the Sphere? Did it live up to the hype? The Sphere itself, the building.
For me personally, I spent the first half of the prelims and shit like wondering like where was this special shit we were promised. I think me and Clark were both talking about it like at the time like we were promised a lot of shit, and quite frankly like the in the prelims like nothing really materialized from it. There was only 10 fights on the whole fucking shit. Um, and considering like how shit the card was, like on the how top heavy it was at least, they really should have been, I think, utilizing the sphere earlier to make it feel a little more special. For a while, it didn't feel too special. But I will say that like once we hit the main card, they started doing some crazy shit with the sphere and like considering how much we got to see of it as the viewers, like I know it was probably insane for the people who were actually like in the building. So I will say like the sphere itself delivered, but I just wish they would have incorporated everything a little earlier just to give me a better experience during some like iffy pay-per-view fights, to be honest.
I 100% agree. I mean, I feel like we knew the sphere was gonna live up. It's the damn sphere. Like it's so sick. But yes, there's only 10 fights on the damn card, and you did it for half of them. Like, do it the whole time. I wanted to see it the whole time. I was waiting, waiting, and once it got there, it was sick. Like it was insane what they were doing with all the effects. But just do it earlier. Like Rosas Jr., a big star. Do it for him.
Thanks.
The Van fight was insane. Do it for that fight before that fight. Like they could have definitely utilized it a lot better. And for Dana saying once in a lifetime, you know, he's right for half the damn card. For half of the damn card. But I mean, it was sick. Like, of course.
Yeah, it was really cool. I thought the fights looked pretty good in there, and I also shout out the ring girls. I thought that was sick, having different ring girls in there every time. I like the little stories in between each fight. Yeah, the sphere was sick, but let's talk about what really matters, boys. The fights. We're gonna start at the tippy top. We have a new bantamweight king, Marab Dvalishvili, beat Sean O'Malley, unanimous decision. I don't know if the fight was boring because if Marab was gonna win, this was how he's gonna win. I'm a little disappointed in Sean. I don't think he was offensive enough at all. It was at certain takedowns looked way too easy. A lot of weird things happening in this fight, like Tim Welsh shit talking, Marab kissing him. What are your guys' thoughts on what went down inside the cage Saturday night between these two?
Fuck the fights. Can we go back to talking about the sphere? Like, no, fuck the plan. Um, have you ever heard about John Jones? He was there in attendance. That was the best thing about the whole shit. But nah, back to the fucking fights, man. I will say Sean kind of let me down here a little bit. Um, I think that in the lead up to the fight, Henry Cejudo was saying that he heard from a couple of people that Sean can't get up once he's taken down. And that did prove to be the case a lot more than I had hoped and like honestly assumed was going to be the case. Because Marab is not that he doesn't have that crazy of top pressure against most people. And it seemed like once Sean got stuck on the bottom, he was there for the rest of every round, which I did not think was going to be the case. I thought Sean was going to be able to at least scramble to his feet and get back to the striking a lot more than he was able to. I think that Sean looked hesitant. He looked a little slow out there. Rob's movement like was on point. Made it, you know, he was never a stationary target for Sean to really hit. The only round I think Sean won in my book was the last round, where in which he hurt him with a teep to the body. He was fucking that body up, and it leads me to believe that like maybe if he had got that going a little earlier, the fight could have looked a little different. But at the end of the day, I mean, he just didn't have the confidence to throw the kicks, knowing that he could not get up when Marab from like, get Marab off of him. Which I thought that like considering his size, he should be at least be able to like frame up and push on the head, kick his legs a little, and scramble out of some takedowns somewhat, but that did not seem to be the case at all. Um, Shout out Marat, man. He does this to everybody, and Aljo proved to be. I mean, not Aljo. O'Malley proved to be like a decent folly for him. Um, Kind of a perfect matchup. On paper, I thought that like, if Sean could keep it in the striking realm for longer, um, he'd be able to thrive there. And quite honestly, that was not really the case, at least tonight. Sean looked a little lethargic to me, maybe a little slow. I don't know how his weight cut went or whatever, but just didn't seem to have the he didn't seem like as locked in as he has to this point. It's probably the worst I've seen him, quite frankly. And I'm talking about like just in the striking realm, not even when the grappling was happening, just in terms of like activity and volume. Wasn't putting a lot out there until like the fifth round when he absolutely had to. In which case he like I don't want to say almost got the finish, but like he was hurting Marab pretty decently in the last round. When he was throwing, he was cutting Marab, landing decently. So I mean, I just wish he was a little more active, but still fuck with him. Just gotta get back to the drawing board. And then shout out Marab, man. He finally realized his dream. Aljo got out of his way, and I mean O'Malley got Aljo out of his way, and now boom, like he's a champion. Can't take that away from him. Very deservedly so. Ran through the division, quite frankly, in a way that like no one really has in a long time. So I mean, I'm happy for Marab. I wish he was coming out of a different camp, but that's my biggest issue with him. But yeah, shout out him. Kind of a deflating way to end the night, but it was what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you just said. I thought Sean was very flat-footed. Usually I see that kind of movement of hopping around in and out, lateral movement. I wasn't seeing any of that. It was just very weird how he wasn't even putting a jab out there. I mean, even just putting a jab out there or a teep kick will control that distance a lot better. I mean, I guess he was worried about getting taken down. But you can't think like that. You just gotta go for it in those situations, especially the way he lost. Like if you're just gonna lose like that, I mean, you might as well throw something out there. So yeah, I agree. I think the only round he honestly won was the fifth as well. He did hurt him with the body kicks eventually. And if he would have done that a little earlier, maybe it's a different story in that fight. I thought maybe the third round he maybe could have won a little bit. That was kind of the only closer round that I can remember, but it was a pretty convincing victory for Merab. He looked good. I mean, I knew Merab was a good fighter coming into this. You know, I definitely thought he'd get chinned because, Marlon Moraes, Mr. Gas Out King himself chinned him. And he's been chinned before. So I thought that'd be the difference. But Merab looked good. He looked quick out there, quicker than I normally see him. So came in great shape. He was throwing some nice kicks early on as well, kind of as a rangefinder that I thought helped him get closer in as the fight went along. Um, yeah, not much to say. I mean, kind of just dominated through the grappling as we would have expected if Marab won. He dominated in that area. Sean really had trouble getting back up most of the time. He was able to get back up a few times, but definitely struggled in that area like I haven't seen him before. Definitely the worst version of Sean. A little disappointed, but I mean, I think he'll be back. I mean, he's still young enough. Just go back to the drawing board, and I'd have to agree. Yeah, I'd have to agree. Like, man, my biggest issue always with him is I knew for a fact, and now we all know he would have whooped fucking Aljo's ass if they fucking fought. And that was always my beef with him. Like Just fight your teammate, bro. Teammates have fought plenty of times in the UFC in big cards, and he would have whooped his ass and saved us for years of watching Aljo, the king of split decisions, barely pull off championship victories. So, I mean, congrats, Marab. Aljo was talking his shit after on Twitter, going on a bunch of rants, acting like he's doing something right now. Buddy, you're about to lose to Evilov in fucking 3 weeks. So keep talking, buddy. Keep talking.
Yeah, man. I want to like Aljo. I don't know if you guys saw, but like he literally posted like a YouTube short claiming Evilov was off on steroids already. He was like, you can tell by the way he's built, like you can't get that naturally. Like, come on, bro.
Is he on steroids? Like,
Yeah,
let
Aljo's
him
the jacked
go.
one.
Like, what?
But
Ridiculous.
anyways, back to the fight. You guys pretty much said everything I was gonna say. We've seen Marab get rocked by much lesser strikers than O'Malley. We saw him got rocked by Cejudo. O'Malley just did not. He was not offensive enough at all. Did not take any risks. Even when Marab, I feel like Marab was giving him some issues on the feet, just the way he was moving. He never like rocked him or hurt him, but like it just seemed like Sean wasn't able to get the normal counter strikes we usually see from him. Wasn't able to get any of that off. I get why his kicking game wasn't as relevant because of the threat of the takedown, but his hands, man, like the way he dropped Aljo was so simple, and I just feel like he never even attempted something like that. This fight reminded me a lot of the Leon fight, where clearly the better striker just did not show it. Bilal did much better on the feet than Marab did, but still, like it just reminded me of that. The better striker just did not show up at all.
Quite frank,
Marab, yeah, go ahead.
quite frankly, like I think that Marab gave him a lot more opportunities to strike on the feet than I've ever seen Marab really in recent years. You like give honestly, he was not even the smothering version of Marab that I even expected. He gave Aljo several minutes around. I mean, gave O'Malley several minutes around to like do something, and he really wasn't. It would be like 2 minutes into the round when he would shoot his takedown and get it, and
Yeah, and then
I
finish the
thought
round
that
on top.
O'Malley had plenty of opportunity to like, push the action a little bit on the feet and maybe and honestly, like at the times when Aljo, I mean when I keep calling him fucking Aljo, at the times when O'Malley was fucking actually being active, he shrugged off a couple of the takedowns. Like they were like not even the most dedicated takedown attempts. I feel like Marab felt a lot more comfortable being on the feet with Aljo, I mean with O'Malley just because he wasn't throwing. Like he wasn't throwing very much. Marab had his lateral movement going, and like I feel like Sean seemed like he was looking more for the KO shot than just being active and letting the KO shot like find itself. And I think
Yeah,
that that's maybe where he made an error here. He probably just tried to chin him with one shot, and Marab never really gave him that opportunity.
Yeah, and man, I like Tim Welch. I love the fact that he was annoying that whole corner the whole time. They
Yeah.
were being a bunch of babies about that
oh,
afterwards.
the beginning of the fight was ridiculous. Like
They
that
were
was
being
so
a bunch of
terrible.
babies, but I love him as a coach. I think he's a really good coach. But man, in those corner talks, I
It
was
was
hearing no good advice.
it was
What
weird. He was like, "You're a sniper, bro."
You're the champ. Well, you're not about to be the champ in about damn 5 or 10 minutes. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you have to hype your fighter up by telling them they are losing. Be honest with them. Do not like just say he's the champ. That is a yes man mentality that Ray Longo, by the way, was doing the whole time as well. Because Murad was just winning, so I guess he can do that. But like, Ray Longo was doing the same shit with no advice either, but that was just a yes man mentality and it wasn't good. Like he needed to tell him to put more output out there.
Let
I
him go
think he
knock
said
this little
immediately.
motherfucker out. Go knock this little motherfucker out. You are down 3 rounds.
Yeah.
Go get this finished. You have 2 rounds to finish this, man. I needed to see some urgency, spark a fire, and I just didn't see it, to be honest.
And we've seen O'Malley rally late against Peter Yan. We've seen him deep into fights put out a lot of output. I know in the Cheeto fight it's different, but like deep into that fight, he was looking the same he did in round number one. I guess it was just the threat of the takedown was that threatening. I don't know, but still, you have to take risks.
Facts.
Also, just same thing with both champions going into this card. Sean and Grasso just looked like zero urgency at all. They just looked so defeated after 2 rounds. Like, just no urgency from either of them. O'Malley didn't go to the press conference. He's like goofing off after, which I get. Like, it's not everything. You still have your family and all that, but just no urgency from either champions on Saturday, in my opinion.
No, I agree.
Agree.
But okay, let's talk about what's next for Marab. I think it's super obvious. It's obviously Umar. Do you guys have any objections towards that, or is it for sure Umar?
I mean, I think it's Umar at this point, or Umnar, as Sean O'Malley likes to call him. I think that he's definitely up next. I don't think you could argue it.
Really quickly, how do we think Marab, the new champ, matches up against Umar?
I think he loses, but I mean, based on what I've just seen, I think he can do okay. Um, just in terms of like, I think he can. I still think he probably gets finished by a strike. Because I mean, Umar's not gonna be afraid to strike with his ass nor grapple. So
Yeah,
his biggest advantage might be at minimum nullified here. Uh, and so I think that Umar will have a lot more confidence at bare minimum striking with him, and I think that that would lead him to find the finish, or at least competently win the rounds.
I agree.
Yeah, I will say before this fight, I would have agreed with you. After what I just saw, Marab seemed like he had a different speed for some reason. Like he was always quick, I would say, but I don't know. There was some different level of speed. So I'm gonna need to see that versus Umar because I think Umar is kind of a slower fighter at times. Likes to be on his counter striking shit. And I think it comes down to in that fight who's the better grappler. If Umar can shed those takedowns off, have his way, I think he should easily kind of win a decision there, to be honest. But I think it comes down to that. Who's the better grappler?
All right, like you guys said, Sean O'Malley, tough loss, kind of got dominated, but he's young, former champ. He'll be back, man. What's next for him? I'll offer 2 names. Let me know if you guys have any other ones. I think it's either Corey Sandhagen or Henry Cejudo. Do you guys have any other names besides those two?
No, I think that the Sanhagen one is, a good fight for both guys to, a winnable fight for both guys. And a good fight to, get one of them back into title contention. Um, quite frankly, like even as good of a striker as Corey is, like the path might be the grappling, bro. Clearly O'Malley is lacking on his wrestling. I think he has to really take a honest look in the mirror after this performance and realize that like you need to dedicate a little bit more to the wrestling, not even just grappling, because I know he does jujitsu and shit, but like wrestling specifically, takedown defense specifically, getting up specifically. I'm sure, which I'm not gonna sit here and say that I don't think he trains. 100% think he trains. I just think that maybe he's got to like refocus, retool like what he's focusing mainly on in training at this level. I think that he got, I don't want to say lucky, but I think that he fought a lot of strikers on his, way up. And then with Aljo, the one grappling test, he was able to knock him out before that really became a factor in their fight. And so I think that this is the type of loss that fighters sometimes need to like reevaluate, retask the training and, get better going forward. And I think that he will.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say like him versus Sandhagen would be the more interesting matchup to watch. I think it's the more fun fight. But man, the way Cejudo was talking, I want to see Sean go out there and just put him fucking out, completely out.
Henry's so annoying, dude.
But
He,
will he though? After what I just saw, will he? That's the question. It'll probably be a 3 round. Well, I guess, yeah, probably just a 3 rounder, bro.
yeah, I think he could. But I don't think Cejudo's the same. Like, he's a weathering, aging fighter. And all I've seen him do at bantamweight is beat the gas out king Marlon Moraes
And
and
47-year-old, yeah.
50-year-old Dominic Cruz. And right before that, I still think to this day DJ beat him in that second fight.
I agree.
So I think he's got something to prove out there. I think it'd be an interesting matchup too, of course, just stylistically.
Yeah. I if I had to lean one, I like the Henry Cejudo fight. I like the beef. I like how it's another wrestler where O'Malley can kind of get tested in that realm again. You know, he is an Olympic champion. He'll remind you that himself. But I mean, the reality is though, Henry Cejudo does not deserve a Sean O'Malley fight. He hasn't won since COVID. He's on a 2-fight skid. But yeah, I think that'd be a more. I don't know. I just like that fight a little more. But Sandhagen makes more sense.
I don't like that fight until Sean gets his shit together on the wrestling tip. Because I think that like in terms of Sean O'Malley, I think that it would put a little bit of a dimmer on his star to lose to Henry Cejudo.
That'd be terrible.
Whereas like, because I think that if he does lose, it'll be like basically what we just saw again, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think that at least I think that him and Sandhagen would have a banger of a fight where like even if he lost barely, it would be like barely though. Like, you know what I mean? Where he wouldn't lose too much stake after that. Um, I just think that like before jumping in against another wrestler, I think he just needs to have time to like work on that part of his game. And I think that Corey would grapple honestly in this matchup. So it would give like a little taste of grappling without like the Russell fuck approach that I don't think he needs to fight right now to rebuild himself a little bit. While he in his off time while he's training and shit needs to be running mostly grappling wrestling practice and shit.
Gotcha. All right, guys. Pretty easy matchmaking for both guys there. Let's move on to the women's co-main event. We have a new champion. The queen is back, Valentina Shevchenko. I mean, shout out to her, but man, this was a big halt to the card. The main card was pretty lit up until this point. Shevchenko did her thing. She did the right thing. Grasso looked absolutely terrible out there. She looked like a zombie. No urgency, no motivation. She just looked like a ghost out there. Yeah, like boring fight. What can I say? But we got the queen is back. She has plenty of contenders to fight, but yeah, thoughts on the fight, guys, itself.
I mean, quite frankly, I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed myself because, as much as I do fuck with Grasso, I don't like, have anything against her, but I was kind of in the camp that like, which I think a lot of people were, that this fight shouldn't have even been happening. Um, Valentina very clearly by one round won the last fight. And to me should have regained her throne. And I don't think that had she regained her throne in that fight, that this fight would have been necessary. Um, but I feel like this fight just kind of was a reset. It set things back to how they rightfully should be in my mind, at least. Like I do think that though she is aging, Valentina a fucking goat and a legend, and she really just decided like I'm just gonna take the path of least resistance here and just do and take this fight where I know I can win it. I think she retooled during this camp, focusing clearly on her wrestling and grappling, and just decided like I'm just gonna like fuck the fans, take them out of it completely, take the momentum out of it completely. I'm just gonna put you on your back. And even though Grasso like threw up a couple of solid sub attempts, like Valentina animal on the ground, and like we said on the preview video, like even in these fights, like this whole trilogy, she's looked pretty good still. It's just about every once in a while she made a couple more mistakes that she wouldn't have made when she was younger. And I think by limiting the amount that this fight was on the feet, she basically just lessened that margin of error. Where it's like I just have to focus on the grappling. I don't have to focus on getting caught with Grasso's decent boxing, decent power. Maybe Shevchenko doesn't take the shots as well at this age, but none of that was a factor when she put her on her back every round.
Yeah, and I agree. And when I go like this, no disrespect to Shevchenko. She did what she did out there. Like I respect the game plan and she executed it very well. I was just like shocked by the fact, and I will say shocked based on the first two of the get back up from Grasso. I've seen her get back up from those positions many of times against Shevchenko. Like I knew Shevchenko could definitely win just by out wrestling her, having more control time, and just those numbers. But I was pretty shocked that Grasso looked much worse off her back in this fight, completely worse. She didn't have any answers to get back to her feet. She didn't try to get back to her feet, really. She was just kind of laying there, letting Valentina kind of just drain these rounds out. And it was surprising. She didn't get the jiu-jitsu off, really. She had really only one decent guillotine choke that wasn't even that close, in my opinion, only because Shevchenko cleared it already and she was on the other side. And, of course, Joe Rogan and DC were like, oh, that's so close. That's so close.
Same
Even
with
though,
the armbar, bro. It just was not even close. They were glazing Grasso so hard. It's getting annoying, to be honest.
yeah. And it like, and that was it. Like, that was Grasso's whole fight. She did not do anything else. She didn't try any, calf kicks or leg kicks to slow Shevchenko down. No body kicks to slow her down. Nothing on the feet whatsoever. Like she was way more disappointing than Sean. Sean was disappointing, but Grasso was another level of just getting completely dominated in a title fight where she's had big moments against Shevchenko where she's looked very good and like the better fighter at times or at least equal to her. In this fight, Shevchenko just proved like how much better she is at this stage of their career. In Grasso, she has a lot of time. I think she'll improve. Just no effort on the feet whatsoever. Like I don't know what I was watching out there. Like I was seeing kind of similar to Sean, no jabs put out there. She looked afraid to engage. And I do like Shevchenko. I thought she took a more measured approach on the feet, probably because she was a little worried about. I think there was a power difference with Grasso just from the fights we've seen, but she took a very smart approach, was on her counter attacking shit, kind of bouncing, moving around, and Grasso struggled the whole fight. She did not look whatsoever on the same level, just in terms of the ground at least, which was surprising. I disappointing Grasso a little bit because I thought it'd be a way more competitive fight, even though I kind of knew this was a possibility. I figured at least show some grit. Like at least showed some grit. Like he at least fought hard in the fifth round and made it somewhat of a dogfight at the end. But Grasso, I saw none of that. She gave up in there.
Yeah. What do you guys think is next for Shevchenko? Who's next up?
Ugh. I mean, Whaley would be interesting for sure.
I feel
Uh,
like
you gotta fight Suarez first, but
Furia, maybe.
yeah, Furia would be the next one because right now Macy, Barber, and Silva would probably like one more win under their belt. Yeah, Furia probably would be the next clear one for
And then
me.
Rose and Blanchfield are fighting.
Okay.
So yeah. You got a different name, Xavier? Or...
Nah, I mean, yeah, Furia. Yeah, yeah, she's the only one that's like deserving. That's not having a fight right now, I guess.
Okay. So that should be a decent little fight, before. Actually, I don't even know. Maybe Blanchfield might be a future champ, but all right though. Anything else on that fight, guys?
I think Grasso needs to, get like a Andrade fight to her name or something like that, just to, reset everything a little bit.
Yeah, definitely not getting another title shot. We're past this rivalry. She got to get her another dub for sure. All right, though, guys. Let's move on to the featured fight of the night. 3-round featherweight bout. Diego Lopez beats Brian Ortega by unanimous decision. Yeah, the first 2 rounds, Diego Lopez looked really good. Ortega was coming on in the third round until he got rocked again. Just yeah, I kind of figured this would happen. Ortega just did not shoot enough. I feel like he waits too much for the grappling off of scrambles, which just wasn't happening because Lopez was just dominating him on the feet. But what were your guys' thoughts on the fight overall?
You can go ahead, Clark.
Uh, another deflating one to the evening. Let me tell you. Um, you know, Lopez, he definitely was s- smarter in the cage in that fight. I will say he didn't go super berserk. He was very measured on the feet for the most part, I thought. Um, and he knew it because he had him in the striking. Even though I thought Ortega did okay in the striking, Lopez definitely had the clear edge there. He had the power edge. And, once he hurt him, he didn't go insane. So I thought it was a very smart game plan the whole time by Lopez. The most measured I've seen him so far. So definitely improving in just a fight IQ area. And he's a dangerous man. I didn't really foresee, a dominant decision by him because I figured Ortega would be, if he had the fight IQ in this fight, go for the takedowns every second you could possibly get. And it just never came. He shot about 2 times. One of them wasn't very close. The other one he had him, but Lopez did a good job of balancing on one leg and able to separate the hands of Ortega. And the rest of the fight, Lopez kind of just he did well with, and a big story of the fight, I will say, to give Lopez some credit, was the leg kicks in the second round. I think that definitely gave Ortega more pause in the fight to go for the grappling. I think he chopped away well in the second too. This didn't even start in the first. But he hurt him several times in the fight, as expected if he was to stay on the feet. And I think Lopez, I wouldn't say he gasped, but he looked a little tired, I would say, in the third round specifically. And but not much else to say. It was a pretty dominating performance. Looked good. Wouldn't say Ortega looked too bad. I think it was a Brian Ortega type fight. I just, man's tough as they come. A lot of people would have been finished by Lopez in those scenarios. So big ups to Ortega, legend. Just not the best game plan, I would say he came out there with, but shout out Lopez. It was a good performance by him.
I thought that everything played out kind of how I expected to a certain extent, at least early. Lopez rocked Ortega early, damn near immediately. Which I think that when Lopez is fresh, like that's when he's at his most dangerous, round one. That proved to be true. Ortega, he kind of has a little bit of the Charles Oliveira aura to him, where it's like he's because of his ground game. I think if he just like goes to his back a little bit, like not too many people are willing to follow him down there, or like even if you do follow him down there, you can't just go in reckless. And I think that Lopez, I felt like he didn't have the best game plan. I think he maybe could have finished Ortega had he just like insisted on him standing back up. But instead, I think it seemed like he wanted to make a point of subbing him, or at least like proving that he can grapple with him. And I think that he was doing okay, but I think that he felt something down there that was like, okay, like this is not where I might not want to play down here for too long. Ortega's still with it down here. So I think that he made the adjustment, started getting back to his feet. He decided like this is where I have the clear power advantage. I don't even think he has the technical advantage on the feet. I just think raw athleticism and power um was the difference maker. Because even in round three and round two, Ortega, like you said, Clark, he didn't look bad on the feet. he was throwing straight shots. They just clearly weren't doing as much damage as or as Lopez's hooks. And I mean, that was basically the story of the fight. I don't think that Ortega grappled enough for my liking, or tried to force the grappling enough for my liking. I think he kind of expected Lopez to kind of gas out at some point, and even though he tired out a little, um, towards the end, it wasn't enough of a cardio decrease to like nullify his power advantage. And I think that Ortega was winning round 3 up until the point where he got cracked, and I was like, well, fuck, like now he's gonna lose this round as well. So I mean, overall, really impressive performance by Lopez. I think Dana even said that like he might be in the running to be the backup fighter for uh the backup fighter for
Or
uh Max versus Taporia, which is cool for him. I feel like this is like, a fat test he passed in Brian Ortega, because Brian Ortega only loses to the elites. And so he's proved to be in that class now. So buckle up, my guy, because now you're about to fight killers from here on out. But I think that he's shown that he can at least compete with some of these guys, and like he is ready for that step up in competition. So shout out to him. Impressive win. Ortega gonna go up to 155 now, which like I wonder how that's gonna look, just in terms of like Ortega kind of like really lanky at this weight. Um, but he is very skinny and does not put on a lot of muscle mass. So I'm really hoping that like if he's gonna go up a whole weight division, he's gonna have to put on some size. And maybe like he'll be stronger, and maybe I mean his durability is not in question even after this. But I mean they're obviously gonna hit harder up there. So he's gonna have to um put on some weight, and ideally that'll let him implement his grappling better. I think that's his main chance at 155. It's just his grappling. He can't play around on the feet with these guys as much, so he's gonna have to focus in on his wrestling. And I think he could beat a lot of guys up there if he does that. But I mean, that's what's next for him, 155. And then Lopez, on to bigger and better things at featherweight. Not too much to say, but yeah, it was deflating for me as an Ortega fan to see him go out like that.
Yeah, ever since Lopez lost in May of 2023, he's won 5 in a row. All of them have been really impressive. Besides the Ige fight was a little iffy, but man, this guy is just the definition of a prospect that rises up the rankings insanely fast. He can clearly beat guys in the top 5. We saw against Ortega. I think he's a legit threat to pretty much anybody. I think his biggest issue is his gas tank, but like I don't see any flaw. I don't see anything really exposable in the striking or wrestling, at least at 145, unless you're fighting like Ilya, maybe Max. But yeah, I just think the gas tank, he just needs to lock that down. But I would love to see him against either Arnold Allen or Volkanovski next, personally.
I completely disagree with you, Ed, in terms of like your belief in him on the feet. I think that he has a lot of holes in his striking, and maybe Ortega is just not the power puncher to like expose them. But like you said, against an Ilya or against like a Max, where I don't think he's gonna be able to, or a Prime Volk. I don't know where Volk's chin is at this point, which like that will obviously be the only fear in that type of a fight. But I think that his striking defense mainly has holes in it. And I think if you fight someone like a Ilya, who can make him pay for like the holes on the feet, I think that he will realize that he's got to be a little less wild and a little more measured on the feet.
Okay.
Um, I think
I
he does have a humbling coming. I do think he has a humbling coming when he fights like someone that can either knock him out or at least make him respect their power enough to like not fight that wild style. Because I think that he does get hit a decent amount. He is pretty hittable, and I think that against the harder hitters of the division, if you start to gas out, especially like that could be a problem for him.
I kind of get what you're saying. I just don't think there's a lot of guys besides Max or Ilya that could expose that. But yeah, he is not the most technical. But kind of like what Clark said, just if you're gonna strike with this guy, he is uber athletic, clearly has a good chin, hits really hard. So like that makes up for a lot of the his weaknesses on the feet. But anything else on these two guys?
Shout out to them both.
Yeah. All right, though. Let's move on. Fight of the night for sure. We got Zellhuber versus Ribovic. I thought Zellhuber won rounds 1 and 2, but not a robbery by any means. I still stand by my hot take. I think Zellhuber is still a future champion. He's only 25.
It's time to eat a little crow for you, man. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
he looked amazing. I thought it's just he got caught at the end. He did get hit a lot, but I think Ribovic hits everybody a lot. I think
Amazing,
Zellhuber still looked great. What do you guys think?
amazing is kind of crazy. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think you might be glazing the man a little
Okay.
bit, maybe even a lot. Way too hittable, bro. Way too hittable. Um, I did think that like maybe he edged out rounds 1 and 2, but like me cheering for him and my parlay, that might have like definitely influenced things a little bit. I was kind of seeing what I wanted to see to a certain extent there. I think that he gets hit way too much, and I think that he clearly doesn't have the chin to be getting hit by the people at the top of this division. And despite what people think, like the chin never improves, it only gets worse. Um, so even though like he has grit, and I'll give him that, he does have championship grit because he was damn near he looked out on his feet for like a round and a half.
Yeah.
I mean not a round and a half, but for
No.
like half a round.
Yeah, yeah.
Like 2 minutes, like for 2 minutes he was on skates, like getting attacked, and like he gritted through it. And towards the end, like I think he recovered a decent amount and started throwing back shots, cracking Ribovics. But I think that like he's got to get on his defensive shit. Offensively, he's impressive. His hands are impressive. His power is kind of impressive, but you cannot be getting this hit. I mean, getting hit this much by the top guys. So if he's really got to tighten up that his striking defense a lot, because I think that you cannot fight in these type of wars your whole career and expect to have longevity in this sport. Like, I think if he doesn't make drastic changes by the time he's 28, he's 25 now. In 3 years of wars, he'll be done. He'll be done, man. His chin will be cashed. So, yeah, I don't know what you said about he looked amazing. To me, he did not look amazing, but he looked good. He looked okay. But like future champ amazing, like I saw nothing to suggest that, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight here. I personally thought Zellhuber won. I thought round two he obviously won, and Ribovic won round three. Came down to the first round. I thought he landed a little more consistently. I thought Ribovic was kind of missing a lot of his shots and hitting the glove mainly. And but I'm not calling it a robbery. Give it to Ribovic, whatever. You know, I agree with you, X. Going into the fight, this was my concern with a matchup like a power striker like Ribovic, who will not, who will just keep going crazy the way he does. Zellhuber is hittable. He always has been hittable. And that's all he needs to work on, honestly, is defensive striking. And that's basically it. And I just wish he would have found his range a lot better, especially against a dude you had an 8-inch reach advantage against. He should have been able to find that a lot better. Just from the fights I've seen previously of his, where he's done very well in that area about striking someone from range and knowing his spacing very well. Kicks he usually throws wasn't there tonight. But I mean, I thought they both looked good. As expected, I thought this was going to be a pretty big firefight, but I did expect Zellhuber to be a little smarter in there in terms of getting in there like that because he is so hittable, and I just thought he'd be a lot smarter in those areas. Even though I kind of thought he won, you know against a powerful striker like Ribovic, you don't want to do that, especially like you have an 8-inch reach advantage on this man. Just keep him at bay. Just touch him up with the jab. That's all you need to do. Throw a kick to the body. You know, he could have done a lot better just throwing the kicks out there as range finders too, but I wasn't seeing that. But you know, this future champ status by Ed, you know, I was never that. I get what you mean, Ed. I think Zellhuber's a very talented fighter. I never saw that in him per se, but I think if he could fix the holes a little bit, maybe add some grappling to his game, I think he could be very good in this division for sure.
Yeah, I'm still gonna stand by what I said. Maybe you're right, Xavier. He did not look amazing. The fight was amazing, but
It
I
was great.
really liked Zellhuber's offense here. He was winning the third round. He dropped him with an elbow until he got caught. I think he was on his way to a clear victory. And yeah, I think this is just a case of a really young dude whose chin has just been working the whole time. You know, all of his fights, he's never been rocked or anything like that until you finally just get cracked by a guy like Ribovic. Yeah, I can't deny he does get hit a lot, but I still think
I
he
just think
uses his. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think I think I'm about to disagree with you again from what I think you're about to say. I think he's just gotta focus more on using his reach advantage. I don't think that he fights as well as he needs to. I think his size and like reach is his probably biggest advantage at 155, and I think that he's got to be less willing to exchange. I think he has like fighter mentality, which he's Mexican, so that makes sense. But I think he's got to get out of like fighter mentality and more into like technician mentality, if that makes sense.
No,
Like
I agree.
use your gifts. You just because you can grit with people does not mean you need to. At the highest level, I think that like if he learns that and gets a little bit less willing to exchange, more willing to like just take what's given from the outside and let that like accumulation set up times where later in the fight you can like after you've accrued a good amount of damage, then maybe sit down on your punches a little bit more. But I think that he's a little too willing to exchange and like let his opponents like fight within like a phone booth, which like not to say he does bad, but it's like very clear that like you're not using your best advantage when you fight like that.
Okay. Yeah, I think he used it really his length really well at times in the fight, but I do agree he clearly got sucked into the crowd and the war that Ribovic had to bring to him to win this fight. I also shout out to Ribovic. He just looked great in there. But yeah, I get what you guys are saying, why you're hesitant about the whole future champ thing, but I'm confident he'll grow from this. Also, I don't know if you guys saw the stat. Every single one of his UFC fights, he's been at least a minus 180 favorite. So this was so he's always just been kind of favorited. I'm sure he's uber confident in all these fights. So it's definitely a reality check against a great opponent. But yeah, he'll be back. But amazing fight of the night for sure. All right,
When
let's
you
move
say,
on.
when
No, go
you
ahead.
say fight of the night, I think we might have a competition for me with this next fucking fight. Not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move on to the opener. Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Ode Osborne. Man, I thought this was over like in the first like 2 minutes. I thought Rodriguez was cooked, man. That was a nasty knockdown, but I mean, he came back. The right guy won, right? Did you guys have Rodriguez winning that fight at the end?
Hell yeah. But
He
like when
won
you
two.
talk about fucking grit, you want to talk about grit? This was the definition of grit. Ronaldo Rodriguez showed ultimate grit in this fucking fight. I feel like 99% of the roster would have been out of there in that round one. Which first of all, shout out to Ode Osborne, man. All 3 rounds, his striking looked fast and he looked powerful. You have to
And
also
got his own
factor
takedown.
in you have to also factor in the fact that like these guys have trained with each other from before. So I think that maybe that gave him confidence. I'm sure that like as the vet, he might have been having a technical advantage, especially at whatever point that they've trained in the past. Because I mean, Ronaldo is like young and rising up. But man, I was really impressed with Ode. Probably like I know he's like on a fat skid. I think like a 3 fight skid now, but like I say like he's got to stay in the UFC, man. After fighting like this, amazing performance from both guys. I just thought that Ronaldo Rodriguez, the way he flipped the fight over, a lot of people were calling for a 10-8 in the first round, but he did end like the round with like 2 minutes of top control and like eventually once he regained himself a little bit for like a minute, like landed some decent strikes from the top position. So I don't think it could be a 10-8 round one, even though he got pretty close to being finished. Just because of like how he came back second half of the round. It wasn't enough to steal the round at all, but it was enough to make it just a 10-8. I mean, just a 10-9. And I think that from that point on, like dominated round two. I think that round two was a 10-8 in my book. Ode looked like he was like 2 strikes away from getting finished. Heavy elbows from top position. And then round three, I mean, Ode came out striking well. I think that he looked absolutely gassed at the end of round two, and I thought that he was done, but he actually, came out round three striking well. Looked like he really found some type of second gear cardio for a few seconds there, but I think that second half of the round it became pretty obvious that like even though he was kind of faking it well, he was gassed as fuck. And Ronaldo definitely started to take over and competently won round three. So great win for Rodriguez. Teaching moment. Uh Shows that he has grit in there. I don't know how he didn't tap to that triangle. He was in it for like 2 minutes, like a hard 2 minutes, and it looked vicious. So shout out both guys. This was like probably fight of the night in my book, just because like it was so back and forth, and both fighters had like clear moments of complete dominance.
No, the fight was fantastic. I was having some issues with my little laptop, so I had to watch this one back for a good chunk of it. But from what I saw early on, Ode, got a great knockdown. He had that triangle forever. He honestly might have gassed a little with that though. Solid 2 minutes in there. It's definitely gonna gas the legs out pretty well. Um, but man, this is what happens when you have grit, people. When you have grit, you will get rewarded, I swear. Like, all I saw was good grit. And what I figured would be the difference in the fight was in the wrestling and grappling of Rodriguez. I thought he was the better man on the ground there. And it proved fact in the second and third round, I believe. Yeah, I believe. And you know, I mean, I don't know if it was fight of the night. It was a good fight. It was definitely a fire fight. I actually have a better fight of the night than the last two we talked about, but and you all know which one I'm talking about. So, but I thought it was a very entertaining fight. Ode definitely brought it. I definitely ate some crow on this because I thought this would be a boring ass fight, to be honest, overall. And they definitely proved me wrong there. But once the press conference kind of went on, and they were kind of the only ones yelling at each other, it got me a little hyped for it for sure. And they definitely delivered. Um, but a nice win by Rodriguez, man. Getting his UFC career started. I think Ode should still be in the UFC, but he definitely is on a pitch count right now. Got to get a win soon. Um, but both impressed. I thought maybe a little money should have gone to them as well. You know, I believe only Zellhuber, Ribovic, and it was the other two that got finishes, right?
Torres.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, Bahamondes over Torres. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Got knocked
Um,
out.
yeah, and the girl that finished
And Yasmin
minus
Kelly,
500,
Disgraceful.
disgraceful. But I thought they maybe should have got a little money as well. Maybe they did. I don't know how Dana does it behind the scenes, but yeah, great fight, great fight.
That's crazy. I think this is the first time we've all had like a different fight of the night. 3 different fight of the nights. That's crazy. But yeah, Rodriguez, a nice little guy in the flyweight that can maybe make some noise in the future. And Osborne, he lived up to his word. He said the fight, no matter what types of fights I'm in, they're always exciting. Definitely a banger. Anything else on this fight, guys?
I'm good.
All right, let's move on to the prelims. Only 5 fights total. Anything you guys want to touch on really quickly?
I
Um,
fight on the night.
Norma Dumont looked amazing. Irene Aldana looked like shit. Quite frankly.
Facts.
Not a great start for the Mexican fans. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like Mexico was taking some fucking L's this card, bro. Like a lot of them, to be honest with you. I don't know, like,
Only 2-1.
yeah, man. Like I don't know what was going on, and yeah, I mean, I feel like Aldana. Props to her for having grit. She pushed the action the whole time, even though she was walking through a lot of shit. She never, gave up on herself in there, and I'll give her that. But
She just wouldn't throw shit. She was always moving forward, not throwing anything.
I just think that she was just out game planned, man. I think that like she relies a lot on her boxing, and I think it showed here. She was not able to find the range well enough, and I think that that just proved to be her downfall. She couldn't really get going, and Dumont like she just showed to have more weapons and pretty great cardio for fighting off the back foot the whole entire fight for 15 minutes. She was clearly doing good damage, like moving backwards. So props to Dumont. And Aldana, she'll come back from this, but she's got to throw some kicks, some leg kicks, something to like stop lateral movement. She's also got to learn to like head off the cage instead of just following and like the whole time. I felt like she was just walking in a straight line, following Dumont around instead of like if you just head her off a little bit, she could have found her a little bit easier than she did. But I mean, shout out to Dumont. Look really good.
She did look great. Clark, you want to bring us into your fight of the night? Talk about it.
Yeah, the second fight of the night, I thought this fight was crazy just from what I was seeing. Charas versus Joshua Van. I thought that was insane. I thought that second round was just as crazy as the third round in the Ribovich Zellhuber fight. Just in the first round, I thought Charas was doing very well. And I just felt like the viciousness in this fight was crazy. Just every shot landing by both was just having some effect on the other. Um, Charas was doing well early with those leg kicks, man. He was definitely giving Josh Van some problems. But Josh Van seems to be one of these like downloaders who will just let his opponent beat the crap out of him in the first round and just kind of download the information. Then second round and on, he'll just go. And boy, did he go in that second round, just ripped to the body the whole time. Charas, I thought the fight was over for a second. Charas looked so hurt. Van was just putting vicious combinations together. I think he's a little undersized, I will say. So he's not as much of a finisher, but he just really good technique, was just putting it on him, and then out of nowhere, just a crazy spinning back fist that hits Van's equilibrium that completely changed this fight, and like from a finish of the second round to an amazing 3 round war. Where in the third round, it was honestly pretty 50-50. I'd say Van was kind of doing the same thing, trying to go with the body, good combos to the head. And Charas, was just pumping a jab out there, nice overhands. And then Van got the takedown, which kind of took over the rest of the fight. But, I just thought it was a very vicious and fun fight to watch, personally, for me.
No, it was a sick fight.
Super fun.
We have to talk about it really quickly, guys. Roll Rosas Jr. got a unanimous decision victory. Didn't look super dominant, but he was fighting a pretty experienced guy. What are you guys' thoughts on his performance?
I was happy with it. Richie Long, not the easiest guy to finish. I think that quite honestly, like a older in terms of like earlier Rosas probably would have found the finish in this fight when he was just on his like completely like just going for it, the takedowns, like aggressive grappling. I think if he would have been a little bit more aggressive in his grappling, he probably could have eventually found the sub on the Richie Long. He got pretty close in round one, but I think that what he showed was even better. He got fight experience, which is what he really needs at this stage of his career. He also looked a lot more comfortable on the feet, which will lead to him like, gassing out a lot less as these fights go on. I think that is a skill that he definitely needed. And I'm overall, I would rather him, as much as like we all wanted to see a finish. I would have rather. I think that in the long term prospects for his career, it's better to get like fight time, get comfortability in the cage, and I think that he showed a lot more comfortability on the feet specifically than he has in any of his other fights. So that showed me a lot of growth rather than him just taking a Richie Lung down and getting a round one sub like a lot of people assumed he would. Um, so yeah, I was really proud of him. I mean, mixed the grappling in when he could. And I mean, Richie Long, a veteran, so no shade to him for not finishing the fight.
The Mongolian murderer. Scary nickname, man.
Yeah, I was impressed. The man's 19 years old out there doing what most of us at 19 couldn't do whatsoever. So nothing but impressed by him. The grappling was very dominant, and Richie Long, he did well just to kind of hang on and defend. So it was kind of hard to find the finish, anyways. He kind of just had his legs wrapped around Rosas the whole time. But there is good ground and pound. He's very vicious on the ground, which I like. But he didn't go crazy, He's getting smarter in the cage. He looked a lot more comfortable on the feet. It's X said. You look pretty good on the feet for the most part. I think he just needs to sharpen the tools up a little bit in that area, which he has plenty of time to do that. Um, I like the kicks he was throwing as a rangefinder. Something people on the main card weren't damn doing. So shout out to him for that. Probably a little better head movement, but that's I mean all I'll say on his striking game. But I mean, look good, look good, pretty clean win.
Facts.
All right, guys. Anything else you guys want to touch on before we leave?
I mean, I gotta give Caitlin Souza a little bit of credit, man. She got the sub, cracked Yasmin Yalgori, who was like I think one of the biggest favorites
Oh
on
yeah.
the card.
Second biggest, yeah.
Second biggest, yeah, literally like fucked every parlay up, to be honest with you. I think Yasmin has great skills, but she might be a chin merchant, and that might limit her going forward, at least against these like Andrade, Souza type fighters they just have like hard hitting power. I mean, it's kind of rare in women's fighters that you would get that like that true one punch KO power, but against those fighters, she's got to be a little bit more careful. She can't because she was looking great up until she got cracked. But maybe you just can't exchange the same with these power punchers because clearly her chin is not elite enough to bounce back from getting rocked and shit. And then shout out to Souza just for like while Yasmin was rocked, just like finding the sub pretty quick, pretty impressive. I felt like it was a 50-50 that like whether Yasmin was gonna end up on top, but she was able to like skate around the back and really secure the choke. So props to her. Not too much to say. It was really quick. And then shout out to Bahamondes for knocking out Torres. This fight, one of them was gonna go down, and quite frankly, like it could have been either one of them. I think if they fought 10 times, like it might be 6-4, 5-5. Like they're both those kind of punchers where like someone was gonna go down, and I think that like maybe only 2 times out of 10 this fight goes to distance. Like they're gonna finish each other more often than not. So just shout out to Bahamondes real quick.
All right. Well, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching our video. Please drop a like, drop a comment, please subscribe, turn on the bell. Check out our TikTok. We got a lot of stuff on there. We have plenty of future content coming out. Your support means the world to us. And thank you for giving us your time today. We'll see you in the next one.
Hey, also like man, shout out everyone who's been commenting recently, man. Like we love engaging with you guys. We love seeing what you guys think about our content, and like it's fun just engaging with the fans. So whether that be the TikTok or the YouTube, keep commenting, man. We fuck with y'all. Thank you.
Hell yeah. See you guys.
Peace.
Peace.